everybody, it's Allison again, stlprostretch.com, and today is video number 2 of yoga and stretching. So if you're following, I'm going to create a playlist on my channel so that you can find them easily. Today we're going to be going over Warrior 2, side angle, and triangle, all of which have the same foot position. And we'll start on the mat. Remember, as always, if anything hurts, stop doing it. Never work through pain. We're going to start in a butterfly position and work on the groin a little bit. So this is traditional virabhadrasana from yoga, and we're going to take it into a resistance stretch. So bring the knees together, push open with the arms. I like to bring my palms together to start. So I'm pushing in with the knees and open with the arms at the same time. I'm just letting my arms win and then letting my legs win. This is not about how far you can go. It's about feeling the muscles in here, which you may not feel right away, and working them long and short while resisting against a force, which is your arms. The nice part about this one is if you relax your shoulders when you bring your knees together, you get a little trap stretch right up here. So try to kind of round the upper back a little bit, see if you can find that. Often for me, it's more of a trap stretch than it is a groin stretch. Although now I'm starting to feel my groin muscles kicking in. They may get a little shaky depending on how much resistance you're giving. That's what we want. And I don't know what it is about these particular muscles in the groin area, the internal rotators. They just, they have a tendency to be a little shaky once you get them working hard. And then we're going to work on the TFL. So when I open, I'm so open in this pose. You know, I could sit like this easily. But I do feel my TFL on the outside of my hip, which is kind of the opposite muscle, is starting to get a little cranky. So I'm going to give it a little love. And we're going to bring the feet out front, cross an ankle over. And my hands are behind me, as you can see. And then I'm going to bring the knee out to the side and back up again. This is as much as you need to do, but to add a little more resistance to the stretch, as you open the knee, push the top knee toward the foot. You might not get very far, and that's okay. You can try bringing your heel in a little closer to you, see what that does for you. It might make it easier, might make it harder. But you should feel something going on in the side of your hip. If you don't, well, that means your TFL is just pretty loose. And then we'll switch sides. So how this translates to yoga is double pigeon. So if you really are terrible at double pigeon, start practicing this. You'll get better. It won't take long. And then the opposite leg. So cross the ankle over, push out to the side, and up. Just take it easy at first, and then you can start adding that push. I'm only making this claim about getting into double pigeon because I was the one that was terrible at double pigeon when I started doing yoga. It was one of the poses I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. And then I started doing this, and all of a sudden it was easy. Well, not easy, but it felt good. As usual, one side might be tighter than the other. You may need to give one side a little more time. You never know until you get here, right? And we're going to do a little more limbering up before we get into the side poses. Warrior 2, side angle, and then triangle. So let's come to our knees. If you need something underneath your knees, by all means, grab a stack of blankets, grab a pillow, some folded up towels, anything that, volleyball, knee pads, whatever you got, just to take some pressure off your knee. So we're going to rise and take your left leg out to the side. We want to try not to let the butt stick out behind here, because these side poses, once we get into them, you'll understand what I mean. So we want the bring the belly in to the opposite of sticking your butt out, and we'll lean over into this left leg, pushing with the left foot into the floor, and rise, and then sway the opposite direction. See if you can fingertips on the mat. Bring it up and over. Exhale if you want to add breathing. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more time. And then we'll take it over to the side. And we're just going to balance here in this little star position. Now, if you're flexible and you want to get a little quad stretch in here, by all means, grab your foot behind you. This is optional. If you're not flexible, you can just stay here. Try to pull the right hip underneath you and bring the left arm behind you, kind of open up your chest a little bit. And you should feel it in your chest and all the way down the front of the thigh. So those of you who are flexible, maybe you need to come here to get into the quad stretch. And I am going to take this into just a tiny little resistance stretch by pushing my foot into my hand and then keeping the push going but slowly releasing it. And then we'll switch sides. So right leg out. I got my toes kind of pointed forward. I'm doing the opposite of sticking my butt out, belly in, tailbone under, and lean to the right. Inhale up and exhale over with control. We don't just plop into it. We want to make sure our core is doing the work. Inhale up and exhale over. We're doing these little limbering warm-ups because they're going to make your yoga poses a heck of a lot easier. Even if you're a long-time yoga practitioner, some of these things you can do, and then you get into the poses and they seem easy. And then sway to the left. And again, if you're not flexible, just try to pull that left hip underneath you and take the right arm behind you, open your chest, and take a few breaths. If you are flexible and you want that quad stretch, bend your knee, grab your foot. Again, I am pushing my foot into my hand and just creating a little movement back and forth. And then release and rise. Then turn. I can't do yoga without adding at least one downward dog. So we're going to do downward dog next. Just your basic downward dog. Hands and knees, tuck your toes, press your hips up and back, tilt your tailbone up, and slowly lower the heels. You can pedal the knees or pedal the heels into the mat. You can go through the resistance stretch where you lift your heels, shift forward, shift back, slowly lower the heels. Whatever you want to do. I always feel like at the beginning of class, there's never enough time given to downward dog. I'm always feeling like, oh, I would like to stay here for just a couple more minutes. This is your own practice. You can stay here as long as you like. And then for those of you who can step forward, bring your feet together, lift your right leg up, and then bring your right foot through, like that, and lower your left knee. Otherwise, downward dog, bring the foot through, and rise. Again, something underneath your knee if you need it. And this time, I'm going to take that option. And put the pillow underneath my knee. You have two options here. You can just kind of pull the belly in and the tailbone under and shift forward. Or if you want to take this into a resistance stretch, imagine the back knee pulling forward, front heel pulling back, belly in, do the opposite of sticking your butt out, and shift forward and back. So I'm feeling like my inner thighs are pulling together as I do the stretch. This is the kneeling hip flexor stretch if you want to find the single video of just this stretch. And then we're going to add a little turn. So I'm going to bring my left foot in a little bit, and I'm turning my hips as I do without the right knee falling in. So I want the right knee to be open. I'm going to grab a little yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you can use a floor. You can use a stack of books. And then I'm going to pull my inner thighs together, shift to the right, and then place my right hand on the block behind my foot and bring my left arm up and over. So I'm just kind of moving in and out of this pose. This is, I guess, a kneeling version of side angle. And you'll see what I mean once you get up there. And actually, we're going to do that now. So, let's bring the back pillow out. I'm going to have you stand. This is your warrior one, right? Where hips are squared to the front. Well, we're going to turn to the center. Turn the toes forward. I don't like to go from warrior one to warrior two because the foot position is so different. So, we want to make sure our feet are heel to arch alignment in warrior two. So I'm going to turn my right toes out. The inside edge of my right foot should parallel the lengthwise grain of the mat. And then I'm going to turn my left toes in just a little bit, but the outside edge of my left foot, this edge, should parallel the short grain of the mat. So we want a little bit of a turn in, but not as much as warrior one, right? The heel should be in line with the arch. Our hips are level. We're going to bend the right knee, make sure that it's following the toes, and arms go out to the side. Now, most of the time with beginners, when I see this pose, I see this, which puts in a lot of stress on your right thigh. So try to back it up a little bit, and we'll be in warrior two. AKA the surfing warrior. And then slide the left arm down the left thigh. Lift it right. Just a little stretch. Inhale up. And now we're going to let the right hip drop. Bend the elbow and take the left arm up by the ear. I want you to start with your hand at your hip, thumb forward, and just bring the arm straight in front of you so that the palm is down when you're in this pose. And you can go as wide as you want. You can grab your block. This is side angle. And from side angle, we're going to rise back up to warrior two, level the hips, sweep back, inhale up, and then back to side angle. Inhale up, exhale back, inhale up, and one more side angle. And we're going to take the side angle and make it into a triangle. See, the foot position has not changed. All I'm going to do is lengthen the right leg. Try to pull the spine nice and flat. And I'm going to for this particular triangle, normally it's with the arm up. I'm going to take my arm behind my back and roll the left shoulder back just a little bit. And just straighten this leg as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Make sure that you're putting even pressure on the ball of the foot and the heel. And if you need to turn the hips a little bit to get the spine flat, that's great. And then you can just kind of try to turn everything back around. We don't want to turn so much that you're bent like that. So this is your triangle. Then bend and rise. Resistance stretch for triangle. Just take your hands to your hips. Lower the right hip. I'm going to push strongly into the ball of the right foot until I feel a stretch, and then back up again. Medial hamstring. Okay, and then we're ready for the other side. So how do we get out of this? Well, I thought a fun thing to do would be to try to balance on the right foot. So bend your right knee. If you need to hop, hop. But a fun thing to do is just to come from this triangle position, bend, and try to balance on one foot. It's challenging. And bring your feet together. Inhale up. Exhale, fold forward. And step back to downward dog. Inhale, plank. Lower your knees. Exhale, lower down to the mat. Roll the shoulders down and back, lift the chest. Today I'd like you to pull the shoulder blades together and down the back so much that you could actually lift your hands and be here. This is Cobra. And then press back to downward dog. Now, if you can lift your left leg and step through, do that. Otherwise, come down to your hands and knees. I'm going to turn around so you can see what I'm doing. Hands and knees, and step forward with the left leg. Kneeling hip flexor stretch on the opposite side. So I'm going to pull my right knee forward and my front foot back. You don't have to do the resistance stretch. You can just kind of lean forward and hang out here if you want. That's fine. But if you want to add that work, that resistance stretching, imagine your inner thighs scissoring together to the opposite of sticking your butt out, belly in and up. Shift forward and back. So you should feel like your front heel is pulling toward you. It's hamstring. You should feel your hamstrings working behind you. It's almost a feeling of like I'm going to move my front foot forward and drag my back knee. That's kind of almost the feeling that you want in this stretch. And then we're going to add that turn, that variation that's going to make it a little bit more like side angle. So the foot, I'm going to bring the foot in a little bit. As I bring my foot in, I'm going to open the hips to the side as much as I can without the knee collapsing inward. See these abductors on the back side of the hip? They're working now to keep the hip open. And then we're going to lean. I'm going to imagine my inner thighs scissoring together. We're going to lean, grab hold of the block behind the foot, and take the right arm up and over. I'm turning my hips as much as I can, trying to open this left knee to the side. And I'm going to kind of move in and out of this for a bit. And I say this is like the kneeling version of side angle, because if you were to extend the leg and pop the foot up, there we go. It's side angle, right? We're just focusing more on the groin area. And then we will pop up into Warrior Two. So I'm going to get rid of this pillow, bend the knee, rise. And just so we get the foot position right, I want to move back to this neutral, open, straddle, wide foot position and make sure we get the feet right. So I'm turning my left foot so that the toes are out. The inside edge of my foot is paralleling the lengthwise grain of my mat. My right foot, the outside of the foot, is paralleling the short grain of the mat. So it's a little bit turn in for me because I have really wide feet, so I have duck feet. So I have to turn my toes in a little bit. So we have internal rotation of the back leg and external rotation of the front leg. And if you're having trouble when you bend your knee and you come into Warrior Two, if you're having trouble with that knee tracking the same direction as the toes, you can even turn the toes out a little bit more if that helps you get that external rotation of the thigh, if that makes any sense. So here we are in Warrior Two. Remember, a lot of people tend to do this, and they don't realize it because if there are no mirrors, they don't see each. So it just taxes the front thigh a little bit. Remember, you want to stay straight up and down. The hips are level. So you're using both your legs, and it's not quite so taxing, because these standing poses can be very taxing, especially if you haven't done them for a while. And then we're going to slide the right arm down the right thigh. Lift the left arm up and over. This is just a variation of Warrior Two. Rise. And then to come into side angle, we're going to drop into that left hip. So the left hip is no longer equal with the right. It's dropped. And I'm going to reach down for my block. I'm a big block user. And the arm goes up by the ear. Remember, we want the thumb to be pointing forward, and you're just going to bring the arm straight up by the ear, rather than bringing the arm up and the palm is facing upward. That just really gets pinchy in the shoulder. So here we are, side angle, parsvakonasana. And rise back up, Warrior Two. Slide it back again. Inhale up, and then side angle. Rise, slide it back, inhale up, and exhale, dropping into that left hip. Oh, let's do one more. And then to come into triangle, same foot position, you're going to start to lengthen your left leg. Please don't dump into the heel. Please don't lock the knee, dump into the knee. We want this front leg to be engaged. The quad should be tight. You should be pushing on equally on the ball of the foot and the heel. And then stretch the spine so that it's lengthened. We don't want to turn the hips so much that we have to side bend. So that may mean, especially for women, because our hips are a little bit wider, that we have to turn the hips just a little bit to make room. And everybody's triangle, everybody's pose is going to look a little bit different. They don't have to look like the diagrams that you see in the yoga class. And then I'm going to take my right arm behind me and roll the shoulder back a little bit, just because it feels good. And the safe way to come out of this is to bend and rise. And then we're going to go through the resistance stretch for this one. We're turning the hips just a little bit, and then leaning. My spine is straight. Come until I feel a stretch and push out of it. I'm using the ball of my foot a lot to push into the into the mat. And then we're going to do our little balance act. So if you need to, you can jump your foot forward a little bit more to get into this standing one, just balancing on one leg. So we're going to balance on the left leg, turn, step, and balance. Ta-da, we did it. And then step the feet together. Inhale up, and exhale, fold forward. And to end the practice today, because these poses can be a little bit taxing, I think they are. They take a lot more energy than you think. The isometrics. I'm going to end with a wide foot pose, and I'm going to turn sideways, but you can do it this way on your mat. So I'm going to grab a chair. I got my feet wide. You know, you can put your hands on the floor. A lot of people like to do that. I prefer just everything on a chair and just rest your forehead. Take a few breaths. Some of you may be super flexible, and you want to take a block and bring your head down, or you could stack some blocks up, 2, or take your head all the way down. It's up to you. Just wanted to give you those options, but I'm going to go back to the chair. So my forehead is resting on the chair. Just take a few deep breaths in and out. And then come out. And that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Number 3 will be on its way next week, and we'll go over back bends. So Happy New Year, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.